Welcome back, everybody. In this segment, we're going to extend the analysis about the excise taxes that we had done before. But this time, we're going to levy that tax on the buyer. What do I mean by levy the tax on the buyer? Well, we're going to say instead of the seller being responsible for kind of the mechanics of collecting and sending a check to the government, in this case, the buyers have to do so. The buyers are responsible for actually writing the check to the government. What would our analysis here suggest if we told the story using our supply and demand graph, and how could we show the outcomes that we might expect? In this case here, the buyers are responsible for paying a check, and we have that $1 tax again. We have the $1 tax on the cigarettes. If we redefine the demand curve to say, hey, this is the maximum the buyer is going to pay. Okay, they're the maximum they're going to pay no matter at a given quantity. That at a given tax, hey, this is the most they're going to pay even with the tax. So the demand curve with the tax is, you could think of it as like a vertical shift down. Here's D demand with the tax. The original equilibrium price here now is going to lead to a disequilibrium initially. And what's going to happen is that the market price here is going to fall. Here's the price. And here was our old equilibrium quantities. And here's quantity with the tax. And well, what happens here is now after our buyers and sellers meet right here at this quantity and price, it is the buyer's responsibility, as we said. In this case here, this is the buyers are going to pay. The buyer pays the tax. Buyer's tax. And they pay the $1 tax to the government up here. And so in actual fact, this is the quantity that's purchased. This was the equilibrium price here, but then the buyers have to pay an additional amount. Here's the $1 tax. So the buyers pay this now higher price. This was the price down below that the sellers had received in transaction. And we had the $1 tax, which is this vertical distance between the curves. And note again, just like with the sellers, that the tax is shared. The buyers are paying a higher amount up here, and the sellers are receiving a lower amount, at least compared to the original equilibrium price, P star. And perhaps an interesting takeaway from here is that if you recalled from the previous video, that in the previous video, when we levied the tax on the sellers, the buyers paid the higher price, and the sellers received the lower price. But that's the same exact outcome here. Maybe one insight right away is that in actual fact, it does not matter. It does not matter who has the legal burden of the tax. Okay? The legal burden of the tax will not tell us the true tax incidence, which is the tax sharing. So we have the legal burden versus the tax incidence, like who's actually paying more of the tax. Well, we can see from our market analysis that taxes are actually shared. Like this amount here is what the buyer is paying, and this amount here is what the seller is paying of the tax. Now I'm going to leave it for a conversation that we're going to have in class to see if we can get to a conclusion about how do we actually analyze the burden sharing of a tax. Yes, the taxes are shared. How are we going to analyze that? Who's paying more of this tax? All right, and the first point is that the legal burden of the tax is not going to dictate who pays the higher price, who pays the lower price. And it's not dictating who's actually paying the tax. And there's another analysis that's hidden here, and I hope you caught it as we were going through it, but there's another way we can get at who's actually paying more or less of a tax. Okay, I'm going to leave that to you and see if we would discuss in class. See you there.